Yeah. And it's time for BJ's best now, baby.
That's right, Drew. And well, we got high school football that kicks off this week for you and I, at least. But um, last week, in fact, the state of Ohio kicked their season off. There were some high school football games that were, that actually count as opposed to just the scrimmages like we saw here last week for both of us.
Well,
That
I had some official games last week.
you did.
Yeah, my
Okay.
Saturday one was a real game.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know. I thought I couldn't remember if that was a official tally game or not. But
Well, some teams were, some teams weren't, but like
mhm.
we've only got 9 regular season games, so like we don't play a single November game. Like our regular
Yeah,
season will be over for a couple weeks before that.
yeah. I was just saying that, and that's it. It really, I think it depends on where you are across the country. You start a little early
Oh
and get it all done, so you're playing the playoffs before Thanksgiving. The state championship is
yeah,
determined by then. But down in Texas, you play 10 regular season, and then it's another 6 week stretch of playoffs until the state championship's determined, and that'll take you
into
almost
December.
to almost to Christmas. It'll be like the week before or maybe 2 weeks before at the earliest, because of the way that the schedule lines up. In fact, I mean, looking at right now, I go 11 weeks from now because you got 10 games plus a bye. That takes you to the first Friday in November, which would be the third, and
Yeah,
then 6 weeks after that would be December the 15th. Would be that Friday. So
yeah.
you would have about 10 days or so before Christmas that everything would be um, wrapped up. But just kind of the preparations this year, Drew, is what we're really going to talk about. So I have, I've got a new team this year. I know that uh,
Same.
you and I are in that boat, and this is the first for me because I am used to working with a coach that I tried to see if he wanted to record something that we could play in the pregame show before during the week of and everything like that, and that wasn't something that we could ever get figured out, but got it figured out for this one for this new school that I'm working with, and you have done pregame interviews before, have you not, Drew?
All the time,
Yeah,
every year.
all the time. And what would you say is the longest interview that you've had with a coach in the pregame show before?
Oh, um, I don't know. Greg Owens used to draw those bad boys out with his coach talk. Like it just it'd be so useless information after a while. And just like he's just going on for us. So probably about 8 9 minutes.
Ooh, all right. So just 8 or 9 minutes?
See, I knew you were gonna blow me out of the water, but yeah, because I'm not because I try not to even do a pregame that long because I've got a lot
Yeah.
of content in my pregame in general, and we got ads to roll out. So
Yeah,
I
I try
try not to go above that. I mean,
I try not to as well. I had just a couple questions that I wanted answered, and I
oh,
posed it and let him roll with it. And well, I mean, so there's one question that I asked that I didn't have written down, and it was one that is definitely a factor because of how hot things have been. It's been, feels like it's been triple digits for like ever, even though it's only been maybe couple weeks at most with since we uh, didn't have a high that top triple digits.
no.
I asked them kind of the preparations and everything like that. If there was any thought that there might be pushing the game back or anything like that. That wasn't one that I had originally planned on. I asked him that kind of before the show, before the interview began, like off the record, and he said, "No, I don't have a problem talking about it on the record. So why don't you ask me?" And so I did, and no big deal. But the couple questions I had, it's about 20-minute interview,
Oh
Drew.
my God,
Yeah,
what?
yeah. So I gotta cut it down and everything like that, and add a couple of things. But I might be starting pregame up just a smidge early this week because of that. Just so, but I mean, and the thing about it is that like there wasn't anything that I didn't feel shouldn't be in the interview. I mean, everything that he
Yeah, he gave
talks
you a
about
lot.
is relevant. Yeah,
Yeah,
he got lots of good info, and with this being the first game of the year, I think it is okay to have it a little bit longer because there's more to talk about. You haven't had it like on a week by week basis, if they're continuously 20 minutes, that might be a problem. But just talking about the team itself in general and everything like that, and some of the faces that he's rolling out there in the starting rotation and everything like that is what really does take up the good majority of that.
Is there anything you can cut and use for another week, or like another part of the show that you could like? And another thing Coach said earlier this week that we didn't play in our pregame was this, and it's holding true for the Falcons, or whatever Fournier's name was.
Yeah,
holding true for Fournier right now in today's game.
Yeah, and by the way, that was the first time that I'd mentioned that I am going to be working with Fournier this year. I haven't.
That's not the first time you mentioned it. You told me like 2 weeks ago. At least.
I meant on the show itself.
Okay.
I just hadn't said it before. Every time I tried to find like the right words and find the time to write something up, it just was something that either I had to do something else, or I just didn't have the right words. So I'm thinking at this point, tomorrow, it's game day, and just kind of announce it with a game day post as opposed to kind of a post, saying otherwise.
Or you can figure something out right now. And we can clip this.
That's not a bad idea. Let's not. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for the spotlight.
It's like, oh, there it is.
I'm camera shy, Drew. I'm gonna have to go hide now. No, so yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I asked him, the last question I asked him is about the rivalry that that Fournier and Crandall have, and how it hasn't been played, until the last few years it hadn't been played in so long, and then it got played because they were district foes, and that continued even though they're not district foes anymore. And he did talk about that, and that's probably something I could clip, but I feel like that's a good way to end the interview and everything like that. I don't necessarily know there's really anything that could be saved for later on in the broadcast or anything like that. What I'm thinking is that we'll shorten up the span of, like, once we do the introduction and everything, we'll go to a break, we'll have the interview, let it play in its entirety, and then by that point it'll be time to get through the lineups and the coin toss. Both teams will run out and we're ready for football at that point. I think that's for this week at least, we can make that work out pretty well. But I'm excited. It was a good interview. A lot of good stuff was said, and a couple things that I'm excited for people to hear that I won't say myself. I'll let Coach say them, because he revealed some interesting stuff in terms of going forward, what might be looking forward to, not just this season but next year and beyond. It's going to be pretty interesting to see. The future is bright, and I think this is going to be a really good year.
You're certainly going to get more wins at that field than I did.
Well, I hope so. I'm currently winless just like you. This whole season.
You want to say it like that?
Well, I was to say I had a baseball broadcast there that the team I was working with lost. I was a neutral observer, but working with a broadcast in quotes because it was a playoff game, and the team that I was essentially working for, even though I wasn't their broadcaster, was working with NFHS. That team lost. That was a basketball game. And then the only other football game that I called there when I was still working with Crandall was a loss. So I'm 0-3.
Ooh.
Yeah, gotta get that figured out, man.
Pain.
Yeah, same. I know you're 0-2, but
0-2 in football, 0-1 at the baseball fields.
Yeah, I've got a loss in each of the sports, the three main sports. I don't know if that's better or worse.
Well, I got a playoff loss. That hurt a little more. So
yeah, I've got a playoff loss.
The first loss was just embarrassing. We were a bad team, and we got absolutely obliterated by an equally bad team, and they picked us off 4 times. Should have picked us off 6. Should have.
The first loss for me was just a triple overtime bonkers thriller kind of game. That would be. Yeah, if you were on the losing effort, it'd be a heartbreak.
That was a crazy game.
It was.
Man, I'll tell you what.
What?
I'm not gonna tell you anything.
Well, couldn't think of a better way to end BJ's best than with
Hey.
I don't know what to tell you.
There you go.